What's up, citizens of Gotham? My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching Ba-Boom, the political vigilante. We have an action-packed show for you today. Just a ramshackle of a big dollar. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just trying to overhype it. Yes, we're going to get into this whole SVB, which is triggering a complete financial collapse. And I'm going to talk about it, and we're going to bring Rosie Tran on the show to discuss it as well. She's been on the show numerous times in the last couple of years to discuss crypto specifically and financial markets and central banks and all that stuff. So we're going to get into that, guys, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how Saudi Arabia, Iran, and China have all made a just all got together, and another like piece of the American empire collapsing puzzle has just been formed. It's just like this. And of course, China just does it without bombs or sanctions. They just like, let's bring some diplomats and make a bargain, make a deal. And that's what's going on. So we'll talk about that. And as a result, we're now rampant. We're sending more weapons to Taiwan because we don't know how to do anything other than sanction and war. That's all America knows how to do. And the Super Bowl. We're good at the Super Bowl. And so we're going to discuss all of that. So thank you all for watching on YouTube, Facebook, and the Rockfin, everybody. Please like, share, and subscribe. Put this out on your social media. And of course, you'll see below on the scroll, there's a lot of great ways to support our program, going to Patreon, going to Rockfin, and also my new special, Manifest It, is out. Go to the All Things Comedy YouTube page or just allthingscomedy.com. It's right on their homepage. Or just if you're on YouTube, just search Graham Elwood Manifest It. It's an hour and 4-minute special. And I'm very proud of it. And I think you guys will like it as well because it's very political. I call it the two-party system. I call it the war machine. I call out all the fun stuff that makes us America. And thank you to everybody in the chat. I believe Blaze Silver Wolf is our moderator. Holly, not available as of now, but thank you all. I'm going to have one of these delicious sparkling waters. Not a paid advertiser, so we're going to let it disappear. I keep saying I just got the piece of cloth in the background, and I just didn't have a chance this weekend to get the special tape to hang it, so we won't have this weird green screen thing anymore. I'm not a fan of it. It eats up a lot of memory, and slows down my computer. It's a whole thing. Someone's really talking about turtles in the chat. I don't know what that means, but God bless you. This is a turtle positive show. Whatever you guys are into, I'm down. Whatever you're into, guys. If this is definitely a turtle positive show. I want to make this little announcement too. I'm going to start taking the show in a little more of a comedic direction, and I'm going to be doing more. I talked to a good friend of mine that's a writer and stuff about. We're going to bring back more Saki the Socialist, more Granny Petrol, maybe even some Shimshay. We got to rename him because there's an actual musician named Shimshay who seems like is probably a really nice guy, and he doesn't. I don't want him to think I'm making fun of him specifically. And then maybe a little more Darien might make it into the mix. But I just feel like I want to do more comedy, like straight comedy that's political and has social commentary on it. Here's the link to the special. Blaze Saver Wolf just put it in the chat. All right, you guys, let me do this segment. We're going to get into it and bring Rosie on. So buckle up, kids. Buckle the fizzy up. Let me cue this up. Share my screen. Oh, this is just gonna be a treat. This is just gonna be a treat. And And then, oh God, we've got a bunch of other things that are shared that I've got to save. Hold on. There's my special. Bookmarks. No, where is it? Shit. Bookmarks. Oh, fuck. It's on my. Hold on, everybody. Here he was. I thought I was ready. Turns out I'm not. Hold on a second. Hold on. Hold on. Yeah, here we go. I'll bring all these out there. It's a bunch of articles we just came across. We're going to shut all these other ones down. All right, so there's that one. Almost there, kids. Almost there. Come on, send that mofo. What's the problem? All right. Okay, hold on. We are almost there. All right. Here we go. Rosie, are you ready? I can see her in the waiting room going, yes, Graham. God damn it. All right, here we go. Buckle up, kids. All right, here we go. Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching the Boom Political Vigilante, bringing the truth out of the darkness. Well, man, I think the financial collapse is starting. We have talked about this on the show for the last couple of years, how this is going to happen. And we've seen, we talked a lot about last fall, the FTX collapse. But one of the things we talked about with the FTX collapse was that was a crypto exchange for sure. But what it was doing was the same corrupt stuff that regular central banks have been doing, only the central banks just get away with it. So if you haven't heard already, the Silicon Valley Bank last week started there was a run on that bank basically. And that's a traditional bank. And it is, I believe, the second or third largest bank to ever go down. The only time a bigger bank went down was then whatever Lehman Brothers back in 2008. So several things are happening now that I've been telling you, be careful. First of all, when I remember last year, I did numerous videos where I would say, if you hear politicians or the media say your money's fine, that's when you're in trouble. Well, gee, guess what? Guess what we just heard Joe Biden say? This is on Straight Arrow News. This is what he said recently. Oh, come on. Oh, let's go. Come on. Here we go. Come on, Twitter. You can do it.
That the banking system is safe. First, all customers who had deposits in these banks can rest assured they'll be protected and they'll have access to their money as of today. That includes small businesses across the country that bank there and need to make payroll, pay their bills, and stay open for business. No losses will be borne by the taxpayers. Instead, the money will come from the fees that banks pay into the deposit insurance fund. Because of the actions that our regulators have already taken, every American should feel confident that their deposits will be there if and when they need them. Second, the management of these banks will be fired. If the bank is taken over by FDIC, the people running the bank should not work there anymore. Third, investors in the banks will not be protected. They knowingly took a risk, and when the risk didn't pay off, investors lose their money. That's how capitalism works. And fourth, there are important questions of how these banks got into the circumstance in the first place. We must get the full accounting of what happened and why those responsible can be held accountable. In my administration, no one is above the law. And finally,
except your son,
must reduce the risks of this happening again.
We believe in truth. We believe it's working.
All right. So there's that. So let's just, this article is in Fast Company, Silicon Valley Bank. It's a wonderful life bank run for the digital age. The downfall of the Valley institution, which has been called the backbone of the startup economy, was caused by good old-fashioned bank run, but one that ran at internet speed. So then there's this. Oh, wait a minute. CEO of Silicon Valley Bank sold $3.75 million in stock in the troubled bank 2 weeks before its dramatic collapse in an automated trade plan on January 26, and CFO ditched $575,000 the same day. Well, what are they talking about? Here, look at that. This is their amounts right there. This is 2 weeks ago. This is the end of February. Look at these amounts. And then this, by the way, this is all, you can't even see, it's too small. All of this red, all of the bank stocks today as of March 13th that are all in the red. They're all losing money. This is like 30 banks right there. So I just want you to see that. So there's this they all lost. So, nothing corrupt here. Warren Buffett, if a bank needs a government bailout, the CEO and spouse should lose their net worth. I don't think that's going to happen. And then this just happened. HSBC acquires Silicon Valley Bank's UK division for £1. They bought it for £1. That's insane. Depositors will be able to access their funds through the deal. All right. Okay. So we've got this. They scammed it. And then this guy did that. And then, okay. And then let's go back to, now let's look at this. How did this happen?
Dodd-Frank regulations that are crushing.
Hold on.
The legislation I'm signing today rolls back the crippling Dodd-Frank regulations that are crushing community banks and credit unions nationwide. They were in such trouble. One size fits all. Those rules just don't work. And community banks and credit unions should be regulated the same way. And you have to really look at this. They should be regulated the same way with proviso for safety as in the past when they were vibrant and strong. But they shouldn't be regulated the same way as the large, complex financial institutions. And that's what happened. And they were being put out of business one by one. And they weren't lending. Since its passage in 2010, Dodd-Frank has dealt a huge blow to community banking.
Huge.
As a candidate, I pledged that we would rescue these community banks from Dodd-Frank, the disaster of Dodd-Frank. And now we are keeping that commitment, and all of the people with me are keeping that commitment. We passed and signed a record number of bills terminating job-killing regulations. In the history of our country, no president, whether it's 4 years, 8 years, or 16 years in one case, has ever passed more regulation cuts.
So,
The legislation.
oh, shut up. I
today
can't listen to that
rolls back
moron
the
again.
crippling-
Stop talking. Stop talking. And then look, this is what's next. This is what's next.
Unique and distinct.
Oh,
to-
wait, hold on.
I
Should the
think we're in
Fed,
a period of time where we should be looking at bailouts? The culmination of events that led to this problem with SBV is pretty unique and distinct to their business practices. I'd say the one thing.
no, it's not
that is
unique. It's
consistent
it's
with-
not unique. This is the same old banking corruption that we had back in 08.
Occurred with SBV that's occurring with all of our financial institutions is the impact that these significantly increased interest rates are having across the economy. That clearly played a key role here. I think if anything, lawmakers need to walk away with this as a reminder that we need to get inflation under control to make sure that we don't have other shocks throughout our economy. I don't think we're at a period of time where
Oh God. It's so much nonsense. I can't even, so let's be real clear here. So just to back up, so Dodd-Frank was passed by Obama, which is weak regulation after the 08 crisis. It's basically, I always call it, it's a Band-Aid on a shotgun wound. Trump repealed it, but let's be real clear, 17 Democrats in the Senate were okay with Trump repealing Dodd-Frank. 13 House Democrats were okay with it. So it's, once again, both parties have been doing this. And this is the scam that has been happening. This is Goldman Sachs has been in every presidential cabinet since Reagan. This is how both parties are corrupt. Bush didn't do anything about 08. He didn't put anyone behind bars. Obama didn't put anyone behind bars. There was no real sweeping legislation. Let's not forget Glass-Steagall, which was Depression era FDR legislation. It was Bill Clinton that got rid of that in 99 when everyone was talking about a cocktail dress. He quietly got rid of that his last year in office. So this isn't like, if you think one party is going to be better, that they're both awful. They're both corrupt. And like, right now, conservatives are like, this is what happens when Biden enters in office. And liberals are like, Trump passed, he got rid of Dodd-Frank. They're both awful. Trump did get rid of Dodd-Frank, and Democrats helped him do it. Now, to talk about this is the host of the Crypto Kitty podcast, comedian. She's been a regular on this show. We've talked a lot to her about Bitcoin and other finance stuff, and we're going to get into why Bitcoin is going to shine in the middle of this. Please welcome back to the show, Rosie Tran. Hi, Rosie.
Hey, how are you, Graham? Let me get centered here so I'm not getting my head cut off with the PV logo.
Yes.
So actually, there's something even more sinister going on, believe it or not.
What?
Yeah, so they're not calling it a bailout. And as you heard Biden's lying lips moving, he said, this is not a bailout. The banks are paying into this FDIC insured program, and that's where the money is coming from. It's not coming from any taxpayer money, Graham. But actually, that's not what happened. So they're changing this regulation. You can look this up right now. This is not something that I pulled out of my butt, unfortunately. They're actually using this to push through a couple super corrupt policies. So the first policy that they're allowing is that they're changing now the banking system so that banks can post treasuries as collateral and do unlimited lending based off of that. So I will send you some resources after the podcast so you can put them in show notes or read up on it just for yourself for future podcasts. So this is basically allowing the centralized Wall Street banks more gambling power for the casino. I'm laughing, but I'm laughing because it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me because
but we have to allow it because we have to save the banking system.
Yeah, we have to.
We have to.
Yeah, we got to save the banking system. If you or I made these kind of corrupt choices, we would.
Oh no, they're not allowing it. Not the little guy. No, absolutely not. But if you want to take depositors' money, hardworking savings people's money, because this is a startup bank where a lot of startup and Silicon Valley and venture capital have their money, but it's also a regional bank where a lot of local people keep their money as well. So if you want to have if you are a bank and you want to take people's hard-earned savings and gamble with it, that's totally fine, Graham. But you as an individual, as a middle-class person, you're not allowed to do that because you're not smart enough. You don't know enough about finance. But these big corporate central bankers, they're experts. So they can gamble with your money if they want. But you can't gamble with your money. Heaven forbid.
Yes, they can. And you're seeing it. It's so, it doesn't shock me at all what you just said, because that's usually when there's some kind of crisis is when they use that as an opportunity to pass through some other
just
awful
push
stuff.
it through. Just push it through. Yeah. So they're allowing. So let me repeat that for the listeners. It sounds a little bit like financial jargon, but they're allowing now. I have my crypto kitty ears and my Bitcoin sweatshirt. They're allowing now banks. They're passing through a legislation that banks can use treasuries, which is supposed to be the safe conservative investment, as collateral for taking more and more loans against that, and basing it off the par value and not the market value. So basically, they're allowing banks more leverage, more collateral, more debt obligation again. A second thing that they're doing that's super scary is that so the federal the FDIC limits are $250,000. And you will be protected with that much. But this is a special bank, because it's a Silicon Valley bank, with a lot of venture capital money in. So we have to protect, up to $5-10 million of this depositor money. And who has $5 or $10 million lying around in the bank, Graham? Do you, or do you think it's these big venture capital hedge fund guys?
Well, I don't think it's me. I mean, I haven't checked my bank account this morning, but I'm pretty sure there's not $5 million in there.
So you don't have $10 million just sitting in a checking account?
I'm not today. Usually,
okay.
Yeah.
So who are these people that they're protecting with these FDIC limits? So they're saying, oh, no, don't worry. We don't want to run on the bank. We're going to raise the FDIC limits from $250,000 to $5 to $10 million. Don't worry, your deposits are safe. And by don't worry, we mean the super, super rich who have their money in this bank. Don't worry. So it is a form of bailout. They're saying it's not a bailout. It's not a bailout, Graham. It's not a bailout. But what does that sound like to you? I mean, maybe I'm slow, but it sounds like a bailout. I don't know.
It's like when they spent all of last year going, we're not in a recession. All the numbers say we're in a recession, but it's not a recession. They're just
no. There's no inflation. There's no inflation. It's transitory. It's transitory inflation. Look over there, Bigfoot.
Yeah, exactly. There's balloons. We're being attacked by balloons.
We're being attacked by birthday balloons, and we have to be careful of these birthday balloons hovering over the Pentagon. It's not like we have a military-industrial complex and the largest military budget in the entire world, possibly in the entire solar system. I don't know if the UFOs have come yet to tell us that they have a bigger military-industrial complex, but I'm pretty sure out of the entire Milky Way solar system, USA. So we're number one. We're number one. I know I saw your special, so I'm mocking you.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's fair though that these balloons were attacking the poor defenseless Pentagon. I mean, they're just a little mom and pop that barely has any money. We can't expect them to be able to defend themselves.
Exactly. So that's what's going on with the FDIC insured limits. So it sounds good on paper. It sounds like they're trying to help the little guy. Oh, we want to make sure you get your deposits back. But $250,000 is more than enough to protect the average person. The average person does not have, $250,000 sitting in a bank account. In fact, I think the average person, according to Bankrate and other government statistics, has $2,000 in their checking account, which is protected under the current $250,000 FDIC insurance.
Right.
So who is being protected by this $5 million, $10 million FDIC insurance depository number that they're raising it to? They're saying, don't worry, don't worry. So I'm sorry to say, maybe I'm just a plebe, but I don't know anyone in my personal circle that has 5 to 10 million sitting around in a checking account.
Yeah, it's so clearly a bailout, and that's what they're going to do. And
No, it's not a bailout, Graham. It's not a bailout.
Not a bailout. Sorry, I said the B word. My fault. It's not a bailout. It's a financial bailing of someone who needs to be out of a financial pickle.
So they create these fun words. I don't know if you've heard in the past 5 years a new vocabulary word called quantitative easing.
Yeah.
So they like to make these fun banking words, like the average person who's too busy trying to pay their bills is like, what's that? You know, so they make up these fun banking words that are completely made up. So I bet you there's going to be a new bailout word in the next, a few months where they call it something else. And it's like, just like quantitative easing was their code word for printing money and bailing out the big banks last time. And it's so, I laugh because it's so depressing, but it's also makes me so angry because, Graham, we absolutely don't have money for universal health care. We absolutely don't have money for UBI. We absolutely don't have money for any programs to help the average Joe. But we have to save this bank run because the entire banking system will collapse if we don't do it, even though we already did this in 2008 and now it's happening just a few years later.
Well, yeah, it's such a great point. They're like, oh, how are we going to pay for Medicare for all? How are we going to pay for student debt forgiveness? How are we going to pay for free college?
There's no money, but we just print it for the bankers. It's fine.
Yeah. And the worst. And
the worst.
It's the other thing too, I wanted to point out to people, and I said this on Twitter today. Remember that the first big collapse happened in March of 2008. The first bank went under in March of 2008. And then it took the spring and the summer before we got to September of 2008 when it fully collapsed. So, and I said this to my audience, and I've been saying this for years, like, get your money out of the big banks, get it over to a credit union. I watched a statistic today on the show Crypto Casey where something like in the year 2021 or 22, there was 19 credit union that went under, compared with 173 regular banks that went under.
Wow.
Because credit unions are non-for-profit. So they don't do this crazy shit of gambling with your money. They're not out there investing.
I mean, just think about what they're doing though. I mean, just the fact that you even said that, just think about the fact that I am giving you my money to hold my money for safekeeping, right? So that's just what a bank is. A bank is supposed to be holding your money for safekeeping so that you don't have it under the mattress and some guy comes over and steals it. And then they're taking your money and they're going and doing these crazy derivative projects. I've actually tried to research some of these derivatives and other products. They're so confusing. I worked at a bank, at a big bank that rhymes with Argo. and you can't even the average bank manager doesn't even understand these because they're so convoluted. It's so convoluted. It's like they're trade credit default swaps, and they're swapping with a thing, and they're betting that this is going to go up. It's even Vegas is we don't understand this. It's too convoluted. So how is that even legal that I'm working my butt off? And if you are thank God you and I work for ourselves. If I was a W-2 employee, the tax rate is 30-40%. So I'm working almost half the year to pay money to the government, and they're then taking that money and giving to Wall Street bankers. That doesn't feel normal. That is normal, but it doesn't feel like it should be a thing.
Yeah, and they're getting away with it. And this SVB thing is just and I want to pivot here.
Don't trust SBV. Don't trust SBF. No 3 letters with an S. Don't trust them. Just run.
And this is the thing. Let's talk about now. Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood. You're watching The Political Vigilante. I'm here with Rosie Tran, the Crypto Kitty, and we were just talking about the Silicon Valley Bank, and this is a traditional bank. it's not some crazy crypto exchange, and it is doing the same corrupt things because we didn't regulate Bush, Obama, Republican, Democrat, Trump. None of them have regulated anything. The Republicans like
They're
to
not
deregulate.
regulating. They're printing money and handing it
printing money.
over
Yeah.
in a giant, like Scrooge McDuck style bag. And they're saying, Graham, well, you need to pay your taxes, but these other people don't. And we're going to take your tax money as a hardworking middle class, person, and we're going to just hand it over.
Yeah.
But no, we don't have money for healthcare. Sorry. Your
Yeah, we
arm's
don't have
falling
money.
off, and that's fine.
Oh, and yeah, people are the number one cause of bankruptcy is medical debt. Not to mention what's happened since COVID. We've had the single greatest upward transference of wealth. 100 new billionaires were created during all the COVID stimulus money. And you drive around, you and I travel for work as comedians. I haven't been all over this country in the last year or so, but I've been over a fair amount of it. And every city has closed up businesses, tent cities with homeless people.
Forget about every city. Los Angeles is one of the wealthiest cities in the world.
Right.
If you drive down Sunset Boulevard, I was driving down Sunset Boulevard to go to a comedy event, and half of the buildings are shuttered, empty, spray painted, and there's homeless people sleeping in front of them.
Yes. And then every other block is some new high rise of overpriced apartments, like $3,500 studio apartments or whatever, $5,000 one bedroom,
$5 million penthouse condos,
or overpriced apartments that aren't even really occupied. They're deliberately kept empty because the hedge funds know that if we keep a certain amount of these off the market, it jacks up rents and mortgages. So they're deliberately doing that. So America's just completely bankrupt. People are, you go to the grocery store, forget about it. I mean, $100 barely buys you any food anymore like it used to.
I literally went to a coffee shop and a chai latte was $10. I mean, that's insanity.
I just went to lunch with a buddy of mine, and it's this place that makes like these homemade sausages, right? And he and I are both vegetarians, so they got some cool vegetarian ones. A vegetarian sausage in a roll with like condiments on it was $10. The fries were extra. And I was just like,
but here's the thing. I don't want to blame the business owners because I have friends that own small businesses.
I just want to make this point. I'm not blaming the business owners. This is inflation. They've jacked the government and regular Americans cannot pay their bills. They can't survive. And it's passed on to the business owners that then has to pass it on to us. So I'm not blaming the business owners, but my point is that Americans are barely getting by. And then this more corruption, which I and others, yourself and other people I've, that I follow, Max Kaiser, they've been warning about this. And this is why people like you and I have been such big advocates for not just crypto, but specifically Bitcoin. Yes. And this is like Bitcoin showing what it is. So 3 days ago, Bitcoin dropped below 20,000 again to 19. And admittedly, I bought a little some of it, and it's now up to 23, 24,000 right now. I don't even know what the price is, but it's because yes, crypto is tied to the traditional markets, but the thing about Bitcoin that's separate from, and I want the audience to really understand this, that's separate from the altcoins. It's why I've steered away from the altcoins in the last year and a half, because the altcoins, some of them are great projects, some of it's cool stuff, but they're also can be run like a corrupt company. And the exchanges, we saw that with SBF. They were doing the same thing corrupt banks always do. They were gambling. And this is why I was like, get your money out of the big banks, buy some Bitcoin, because as the stock markets are collapsing today, and who knows if this is the first domino to drop, Bitcoin has been up by 15 to 20% in the last 24 hours.
Well, there's no run on the bank. If you have your Bitcoin, it's like a 1-to-1. So if you have your Bitcoin and you have it in a wallet or off a decentralized exchange, it's there. And so there's not going to be the run on the bank. No one's going to take your Bitcoin and go gamble with it and run off with it. It's your money, and that's the use case for it. That is the use case for it. In addition, you talked about the military-industrial complex. I constantly hear people say, well, what is Bitcoin backed by? Well, what is the US dollar backed by? It's backed by the full faith and government of the US military. I mean, it's the system is secure, and it's secure by violence and blood.
Right.
Why is the USD the world reserve currency? And why are so many central bankers like Jamie Dimon so anti-Bitcoin? That should give you a big question mark over your head.
Yeah, it's a threat. And you're seeing what's happening today. You're seeing why Bitcoin was created, because as you say, there's no Bitcoin CEO that can get pulled away in handcuffs because he was corrupt. There's no Bitcoin offices that can get raided and they were gambling with your money. If you have Bitcoin on a cold wallet, now if you have Bitcoin on a exchange, you're putting yourself at risk, and you should pull it off of there for these very reasons, because exchanges can be, as we saw with SBF. So, but it's really showing, like, if you own Bitcoin and keep it on a cold wallet, it's just increasing in value, and they can try to regulate it all you want, but if the whole world starts using it, which more and more people are going to use it, and when this, people start pulling their money out of traditional banks, because the thing that caused the run on the banks was big money people running to the bank, running to the Silicon Valley Bank. It was all VC, startup money. We're going, get my money out of there, pull my $1 million out of there. And that's what happened. I mean, they're all friends. They're all talking with each other. So the run on the banks now can happen at lightning speed because everyone's got the internet and smartphones, and it starts trending on social media or whatever. So now it seems to me, and I'm just some Bitcoin people that I follow online are like, yeah, this is the moment Bitcoin was created for, because Bitcoin was created after the last financial crisis, right? So
that is what the cypherpunks, or the alleged creator Satoshi, was doing, because he or she or they were sick to their stomach when they saw the, you can read the white paper and you can see that they created it after the collapse of 2008, 2009. And they were like, no, I don't want my tax dollars going towards Wall Street banks. And that's where the idea was born.
Yeah. So how do you, it feels like, and I've done some videos on this, and I'm following this, like, there's a housing bubble starting, that's set, because again, they didn't regulate anything with housing. You've got all these hedge funds in housing, like we talked about. They own these big condo complexes, and they're they bought up, after the last housing crisis, all these companies like BlackRock bought up all these properties and have deliberately jacked up the rents. So as this collapse gets bigger, and there's going to be another bank's going to drop, I would say, in the next month. Trust me. Well,
there is another bank, Signature Bank, they put a freeze on it. The U.S. government has put a freeze on that, so we don't know what's going on with that. Silicon Valley Bank got lucky because it happened on a Friday, and so they had the weekend, and the bank was closed on the weekend to kind of plan out. So this could have been a lot worse. I, first of all, am happily married, as you know, but I'm getting very turned on, Graham, by your passion for crypto. Like, I'm really excited because I remember you calling me and being like, what's this all about? And now you're getting educated, and it just makes me so happy, because I'm so sick of the mainstream. If you go right now and you go Google crypto, just on Google, and you click on the news icon on Google, all of the stories that come out are like, it's a scam, it's horrible, it's this, it's that. And then once you start digging deeper, you're like, why is the mainstream media so anti-crypto? Like, that's weird. Like, every single news story, if crypto's down, it's a story about how everything's crashed. If crypto's up, it's a story about when the next crash is happening. And you're like, why does MSNBC hate crypto so much? Why do these huge, giant, mega conglomerate media companies that are linked directly to Goldman Sachs and Wall Street hate crypto so much? And so you start doing a little research, and you're like, wait a minute, this is like the people's money. It's a form of being your own bank and custodying your own funds, and not having some central banker take my money and go to the casino with it. And so I think that's really important to understand.
Yeah. And so where do you see this now that, like you said, there's another bank, Signature Bank, that's just frozen. I think we might have another bank or two in the next month, and the next 2 to 4 weeks go completely up, belly up. And where do you see where do you see this? How do you see this collapse sort of playing out? And where do you see then Bitcoin specifically going?
Yeah. So first of all, hashtag not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a social media person that wears Hello Kitty ears. But I would like to say that I do consider myself somewhat of a crypto expert. I've been involved in cryptocurrency. Bitcoin's invented in 2009, and I got interested in 2011. And I didn't start investing in it at the time. I wish I had, because I was too scared and I felt, oh, I don't understand this. I'm not knowledgeable enough. But I think you're right on the money. I think having your funds in a credit union is great. Credit unions are nonprofit, but not just that, they're owned by the owners of that credit union. So the owners are people, not boards of central bankers and people that have their own best interests. So that's really important. But I would just keep my money in I'm in a credit union as well. Just my spending money, so my operating cash, if I have to like pay my rent or whatever. And then I would try to keep any savings in Bitcoin on a cold wallet, just for your protection, because I know Silicon Valley Bank was tied to Coinbase, or they had some funds in it. A lot of people were banking with Silicon Valley Bank, but that's with any large bank, is that you need to be careful because they don't have your best interest. And I think that Bitcoin had a little bit of a bear market due to the SBF, the other one, the other SV blah, blah, scandal with FTX, and so all these acronyms. And so I think that that kind of scared the average person. But now that this run on the bank is happening, people are getting more interested in crypto, more interested in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is my cryptocurrency of choice because it is the kind of like the gold standard. It is decentralized. China has banned it 10 times, clearly unsuccessfully, because as long as one person in the entire world believes in Bitcoin, it can't be stopped because it's decentralized, because there's no a CEO of it. Like you said, it's like the internet of money. It's people all over the world. And the best use case, it just happened right now with the Ukraine-Russia war, with people sending remittances. The traditional banking system was collapsed, and people were sending remittances to relatives in the Ukraine through Bitcoin and through wallets and transfers and stuff like that. So I think it's just such a great use case. My family is a perfect example. They fled a war-torn country. My parents lost everything. They lost their home. They lost everything, and they came to the U.S. with the dollar in their pocket. If Bitcoin would have existed at that time, they could have had it on a wallet, or had it on their phone, or had it in a portable device. And even if you lose that portable device, it's still on the blockchain, so you can access it from another location if you have that code.
Yeah, and that's such an important thing. That's such a great example to bring up is what your family went through when it left Vietnam. It had nothing, and then again, Ukraine was a huge that war, which unfortunately is still going on because America keeps pushing it because there's a profit in it. But yeah, Ukrainians were able to get money in and out of Ukraine. When Russia got sanctioned, regular Russian people were able to convert. A lot of people went to Bitcoin there. And you're seeing this now. I really think that this Silicon Valley Bank, again, it's the same old story of corruption. They knew it was going sideways. They gambled the money. They dumped the stock 2 weeks ago. Like, they're just the same filthy corrupt. And of course, this is, again, you bring up Coinbase, and I'm glad you did, because the USDC, the digital coin, actually, they were playing with that, and the price of that went down, which it shouldn't. A stable coin's price should not go down.
It should be 1-to-1. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be 1-to-1, and it went down to something like 84 cents. I don't know what it's back at right now, but that's a little scary. And it's another example of why you shouldn't keep any significant amounts on the exchanges, because the exchanges can be corrupted. We saw this with FTX. And if they're gambling and they say we're not, I couple years ago, I bought a bunch of crypto.com, their Crow token. And when the FTX thing happened, I was like, I don't trust this. And
I keep a little bit of money on the exchange if I'm buying something else, like if I'm buying Ether or and then I'll move it off. But I think it's really important. You said something really, really important in the beginning of the podcast. And you said, the Republicans and the Democrats, it's all the same. I think the Republicans get a really, really bad rap, and it's like the Democrats are all like peace and love and rainbow flags. But some of these Democratic leaders, I think, are more entrenched in the banking system than the average person would understand. We talked a little bit about Elizabeth Warren on the phone before. She is a Harvard professor. She was in banking and credit and finance for 20 years. And she is so against crypto. It's to the point where you're like, are you getting paid? Like, it's really insane. And she's a very intelligent woman. She's not, people have this joke, oh, she's like a school teacher. Elizabeth Warren is a very intelligent woman. Mm-hmm. She is a very educated woman. it's, a lot of people make fun of, AOC and oh, she was a bartender. You can't say that about Elizabeth Warren. She worked in finance and was a Republican previously and then switched to the Democratic Party. And so when she is railing against the average person having access to decentralized finance, but yet these big banks, I don't see her online at all right now railing against raising the FDIC limits to $10 million. I mean, I'm really struggling here, but who are you protecting when you're refunding $10 million in FDIC insured money? It's not the average Joe.
Yeah. And you bring up a great point. Liz Warren is a very sharp woman, so she knows what she's doing. And if you go to Open Secrets, you'll see how much money she got from the banking industry. They all do. And so they're either willfully dumb, or in Liz Warren's case, I think she's paid. They're all paid to do this, just like they're paid by the healthcare industry to prevent Medicare for all. They're paid by the big banks and the financial. It's like we talked about Janet Yellen. She got whatever when we talked about this when she first got appointed. She got paid whatever $2 million to give
Jerome
speeches.
Powell, I think our current Federal Reserve chair, I think his net worth is like $30 million. How did he get that net worth as an alleged public official that was never voted in?
I know. And well, the same thing with Janet, and they all give these talks to these big banking institutions. It's like, I remember when they reveal what Janet Yellen made, and I'm sure this is the same with Jerome Powell. People were like, do you think the people in those big banking industries they needed her to educate them on how the financial system worked? No, they were paying, they're paying for influence because they know she's going to be in a position of power, and she's going to pass regulation that's going to help them. And
I'm not mad at Jerome Powell or Janet Yellen because they're doing their thing, but I am mad at Elizabeth Warren and other politicians like that because they're promoting this image of rainbow flags, as you say in your special, right? Skull fucking a puppy, but having rainbow flags and unity and trans rights and all these things, which I do believe in, but they're pushing this image. And then meanwhile, when, behind the scenes, it's like, they're like blowing bankers or whatever. And it's like, it's very, to the average person who isn't that politically astute or politically aware, you're going to vote for those people. You're going to vote them in because you really care about people. And so that's what makes me sad because it's, at least the Republicans, I think, are very transparent of what they're doing. And I'm okay with that.
They just come out and say it. We're evil. We hate gays. We love war. We don't give a shit about anybody other than ourselves. Like they just say it. And this is, I agree.
I almost find that a little bit more respectable because you're like, okay, I know where you stand at least.
Yes, I would respect Rosie. I would respect somebody that just comes up to me to my face, says, Graham, I don't like you. I don't think you're funny. Go fuck yourself. Now I might not go, all right, kiss my ass. But I'd rather have that than someone's like, oh, Graham's my buddy. And then they're backstabbing me. They're talking behind my back. And that's what the Democrats do. Are the Republicans homophobic and transphobic and all this? Like Ron DeSantis, he's awful. He's passing horrible legislation. But then again, this is the thing that these two parties do. This is part of the scam. They have about 3 or 4 issues that they're really different on, right? Guns, trans rights, abortion, and that's it. And everything else.
I think a lot of the social issues, they really push them because it gets people emotional.
Yes.
And so then people aren't paying attention to, hey, guess what? We're allowing big banks to do these like collateralized loans, or hey, we're raising the FDIC limits from $250 to $10 million to protect, hedge fund people. And so people aren't really paying attention to these issues because they hear things that are very sensationalized about race or about, homophobia or whatever. And so they get really emotional and upset. And a lot of the posting I see on social media from my friends and family are those very hyper divisive policies, and not these financial policies that most blue or red state people have in common. The average person is an average working Joe. You're not a billionaire. You're not, buying and trading Twitter for fun or whatever the heck you're doing, or doing a rocket ship to Mars against your other buddy's rocket ship to Mars, whatever, right? You're just trying to pay the bills. You don't have your yacht and your like support yacht, right? And so people get really emotional and upset about these political issues, which are important. I'm not saying they're not, but then they ignore these issues where there's quite bipartisan support between both parties because it benefits them.
Of course. I mean, that's one of the things that woke me up. I very much voted for Obama, and I thought he was going to be so much different than Bush. And
same cabinet as Bush, Goldman Sachs guys, all the same cabinet. It's been the same cabinet for like 20, 30 years.
Yes. And then Obama, Bush lies about weapons of mass destruction to get us into an illegal war in Iraq. And then Obama dropped more bombs than Bush. And he passed the Marriage Equality Act, and I'm glad that he did. But people think that makes him like head and shoulders. I'm like, well, you're a privileged American that doesn't have to worry about drone strikes. So, Obama set the Middle East on fire. But
there's real consequences to this. I mean, people don't understand. My mom has stories about waking up and going to class, and her entire 5th grade class was dead because they were bombed. So, I mean, this is real trauma and real people's lives. It's not just, we're so distanced from war now because we just use drones. It's like a video game. I don't know if you've been, when I was traveling to support the troops, I went on bases and they train them like a video game to just kill, so that they're so disconnected from it that these aren't people.
Yeah. And you think about then even just like, and again, that what happened to your mom, that's intergenerational trauma. So that's what war does.
I know. That's why I must stand up. You haven't heard my acronym. I have like 10 minutes of new death materials.
Yes. That's what you should be doing, Rosie. More that stuff, more crypto, talk finances. Go, Rosie. Do that.
So it is intergenerational trauma, but it's just creating more and more of a broken world. And let me tell you, I am 100% positive in the year 2023, we have all the solutions to all the problems in the entire world. We just need to freaking do them. We just need to put them into action. We have all the money we need. We have all the wealth and resources we need. We have all the cures for all the diseases. I'm positive of it. I am positive that we could solve all the world's problems if everyone stopped fighting and just worked together and just ignored these fucking jackasses.
And I'm hoping, and I think this is why they're so resistant to Bitcoin specifically, because they're smart enough to know the power of Bitcoin. They're smart enough to know they don't want to have, 30 million new millionaires in America that are just regular people who, sure, some of them are just going to go out and buy Lamborghinis like some of the crypto people do, but a lot of them are going to go, no, I actually can fund, like you say, I've done all these videos on all these different climate change reversing projects that are happening right now. They're there. They just need mass funding and need to be put on and they just need to be scaled up. Well, what's going to happen when all these just regular people who own all this Bitcoin and Bitcoin becomes worth 100,000, 500, $1 million? I heard a guy said there's a good chance it could be in the next 10 years worth 10 million or more a coin. Like, that's insane. So you're going to have people that are just, because I know what I would do if I had a lot of money. I wouldn't buy Maseratis and Rolex. I don't give a shit about that stuff. I lost my home to foreclosure thanks to Bush and Obama. So I would help people. I would in LA, because I've lived in LA for 25 years, I would just buy some apartment complex and put housing for the homeless. And I would fund like job training, drug treatment, mental health screening, and get people off the street and reintegrated back into society. And I know I could do that if I had real money. And I think that's their fear too, because right now the only way to make real money is to be just a godless, greedy, soulless asshole to suck wealth, exploit people's labor for wealth. Bitcoin, I'm not exploiting anybody's labor for wealth.
Yeah, because it's code. And that's something that's really important. And that's why a lot of people don't understand either. It's war-free money. It's blood-free money. It's just code. And it's not based. Right now, we are getting money by exploiting people in the third world. We're getting money by bombing and taking resources. That's how the majority of wealth was created pre-19 whatever, is just exploitation of third world countries. That's why the French and the Americans went to Vietnam. John Kerry and John McCain and other people had massive contracts in Vietnam after the war. And a lot of people had massive contracts in Vietnam after they bombed, of course, and then they came and rebuild, because you need to rebuild after you bomb everything, Graham. And who else to better rebuild but these American contractors? Yeah. Yeah. So war is a very profitable thing, and it's sad, but it's a very profitable thing. Hey, we destroyed everything, so we need to rebuild it now, and we contractors and who's going to be the contractor, but my buddy who's, in with the government and this and that. And so it becomes this crazy, I saw that when I went to the Middle East to perform for the troops. The troops were getting paid, $40,000 a year. And then they had these really high-end contractors who were doing the exact same thing as the U.S. military, but they were getting paid six figures to do it. And who was it? Oh, well, it's John McCain's buddy's buddy. So, yeah.
Halliburton or, KBR or whatever, which was Dick Cheney's company. And it's like, yeah, you and I as comics, I mean, you have a very personal experience being what your mom went through in Vietnam. And then also you and I saw as comics going to the war zones. We saw it up close. I mean, that was one of the things I saw. I saw those things. I saw the contractors getting 120 grand a year to do what a soldier was getting 40 grand a year to do. And then I saw the economic conscription. I talked to so many people, especially when I went back in 07, 08, and they were like, this is my second or third deployment. And I'm like, why are you back? And they're like, I got a $20,000 enlistment bonus. I have no choice, because there's no jobs back in their town, because globalization and NAFTA and all that crap shipped their jobs out of there. And so there's a Walmart, there's a Kentucky Fried Chicken, there's dealing opioids or joining up with the service. And so you're not going to get a $20,000 bonus in some town that's been decimated by neoliberal globalization policies. So they had to go fight a war. And you saw firsthand, as you saw these big corporations making crazy money. Look at Afghanistan. We were there for 20 years. It was just to make money. We weren't trying to fix or save anybody. And we're doing the same goddamn thing in Ukraine. We want to be in Ukraine for 5-10 years, just spending money, rebuilding, whatever.
I was specifically told by superiors, you're here to perform for the troops. You're not here to talk to the contractors. Don't talk to them. Don't look at them. Don't sign their autographs, because there was so much resentment. Yes. Because the military people were being paid such low wages compared to the contractors, and the contractors were getting paid so much money. I mean, exorbitant amounts of money and the private contractors, they had private security, they had all sorts of private industry getting paid. And again, back to what we were originally talking about, the people say, well, what is Bitcoin backed by? Well, what is the USD backed by? If you say Bitcoin is bad for the environment and the petrodollar is not, we are on it's literally called the petrodollar. Like, I can't even make this stuff up. I can put a solar panel on my house and mine Bitcoin from the sun. And we have this giant global military industrial complex securing the US dollar as the world reserve currency. And because people are not financially educated, they don't know any of this stuff. And they just think that, Bitcoin is like some crazy fairy internet money, and not realizing that, we're paying into the system. Graham, when I was working a 9-to-5 job, I was paying almost 40% of my money into taxes. That means I worked 4 or 5 months out of the year to fund the military industrial complex. That's insane. That is insanity. But people are so used to it that they hear this thing about name Bitcoin and they get freaked out and they're scared. But this is like a slave system. Like almost 40% of my year, that money was going to the military industrial complex to bomb poor people in other countries that are just like me.
Right. Or your mom.
Or my mom. Exactly. Literally just like me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, Rosie, I appreciate you taking time to come on the show and share with us everything. I can't wait to see if you got new material that's talking about anti-war stuff and crypto, man. Go for it, dude. I cannot wait to see it. So,
okay. Before I go though, I want to tell the listeners and watchers how awesome your comedy special was.
Thank you.
And you also forgot to mention you do make jokes about your dating life, which were some of my favorite jokes. Musical chairs. That was a good metaphor.
Yes. I do make a little bit of jokes about my dating life. And that's when I even transition to the politics, because then I start saying how hard it is to date when you're an anti-war, pro-labor socialist. It's hard to just go on a date.
A little extreme for a first date. Graham. Maybe the third date. So guys, check out his special because it's really, really good. It actually made me laugh. And as a comic, it's really hard to make another comic laugh. And I laughed the whole time.
Awesome. Thank you, Rosie. Well, where can people follow you online and watch all your stuff?
I'm at Twitter at Funny Rosie, Instagram Out of the Box Rosie. I have a podcast called Out of the Box Podcast, and I'm on rockfin.com/Rosie Tran. I also have my Hello Crypto Kitty podcast, which is crypto news and other things. And Graham, thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for talking about this issue. It's so important, and I really want to educate people because there's so much misinformation from the mainstream media about crypto, and it's the people's money.
Yeah, I saw you're commenting on some of my tweets this morning because I woke up like going, what? Like, it's just, oh my God. Like, I was just watching all this shit happen, and I was looking at all these articles, and I saw you on Twitter, and I was trying to get some people to come on my show today. And I was like, well, I bet you Rosie's available. And then we started talking on the phone. Funny. We just started going, and you're like, I'll talk to you later. I'm like, yeah. I'll see you at 3. Like I was like, save it for the podcast.
Was reading about it this morning and just like railing. I was like,
and it's like, I was sitting here this morning going, I mean, all these people were predicting this is going to happen. And I was telling my audience this is going to happen. But when it starts happening, you go, Jesus.
You don't want it to happen. You don't want people to lose their savings. You don't want the banks to collapse. But I mean, the banking system is basically a giant Ponzi scheme right now. We need to clean house.
Yeah, we do. Well, thank you, Rosie, for coming on the show. I know you got to run. I really appreciate it. It's great to see you, and we'll talk soon.
You owe me vegan tofu noodles.
Yes, I do. I owe you a vegan meal. I know. I'll get you that for sure.
Okay,
right.
Bye.
Bye, Rosie. Rosie Tran, everybody. That was really, I like talking to her. She really knows what she's saying, and we're on the same wavelength. So hit the like button, ladies and gentlemen. Like, share this out. Now we're going to talk about the other segments. Boom. All right. Don't forget, you can support the show at Rockfin. You can go to Rockfin right now, rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, and tip the show, since I cannot accept sorry, I was live streaming. And you can support the show at Venmo at Graham-Elwood. Let me check that. Matt S. Shave Your Knuckles for Justice. Matt, thank you for supporting us at Venmo, which is at Graham-Elwood. You see it scrolling below. If it doesn't have a dash between Graham and Elwood, it ain't me. Matt S. asks, what are your thoughts on the excessive snow California has been having? Does climate change factor in? Yeah, absolutely. I think climate change factors in. Great question, Matt. So what climate change means is it doesn't just mean, it's going to be hotter all the time. It means weather events are going to get more extreme. The droughts are going to get bigger. The floods are going to get bigger. And flooding is a dangerous aspect of climate change. Now, as far as California's drought, this is how, for those of you who don't know, this is how it works in the West. Typically the summer doesn't get much rain in the Western states. So, we need the snowfall to get the snow. We need the rain. We get snowfall at the higher elevations, and then that melts in the summer, or in the spring and the summer, which helps our water table. So in that regard, the rain and snow that we've been getting in California is probably a little bit of a good thing. The flooding is obviously awful and dangerous and hurts people. And California, like in LA, so much of the rainwater they've got these canals, these man-made canals that just run the water back into the ocean. And as a surfer, it sucks. It's bad for the environment. It's bad for surfing. You have to wait 72 hours. The LA Department of Health says wait 72 hours after rainfall before you go surfing or get in the water for any reason. And the thing I always say when these rainstorms happen, why aren't we capturing this water more? Now, they just passed some legislation to divert some of these to this water treatment facility in, I believe, Long Beach, which is good, but they need to have So they've built right by the Santa Monica Pier, and they did this about over 10 years ago, maybe 2008 or 9 or 10, somewhere in there. They built this, what's called the SMRF, Santa Monica Urban Runoff Facility, and it captures rainwater, cleans it, and puts it back into the water system. We should be doing that with every drop of rain in every western southern state where water is an issue. You know, we should be capturing every drop of water. And by having, and I've talked about this before, then by having a pipeline system across the country that's not for oil and natural gas that destroys our environment, it's actually for flooding and drought. So when parts of the country are getting flooded, we can like literally drain that water out of there and send it to other parts of the country or put it in reserves so that we literally, the term save it for a rainy day. I mean, it's like save the water for a drought day, because the Western United States last summer was brutal. It was one of the worst droughts ever. And we can't just hope for a big rainstorm to take away all we should be capturing every drop of water when it comes in. We should, and these bills should be on the books. We should be passed. But again, it's the same old thing. How are we going to pay for it? We got money for war and Wall Street bailouts, but we don't have money to do something that would make the environment cleaner, make us more efficient, make us not dependent upon whatever else. And people talk about desalination. We should be capturing every drop of rainwater first before we venture into desalination. So great question, Matt. You always ask great questions. And I think climate change is going to bring in more severe weather. That's just the reality. We're going to have more floods, more droughts. The hurricanes are going to get worse. It's just going to happen. That's the reality. So if we don't actively try to reverse climate change, it's going to get way more expensive. That is the truth. Except this year, afraid to do rain barrel here in Pittsburgh because of the train disaster, acid rain. Well, I hear that. I think I would personally rather do a rain barrel. If I was living in that part of the world where the train derailment happened, I would rather do a rain barrel than water out of the ground, because the water out of the ground, is contaminated. Acid rain might not be as bad, if at all. So that's just my opinion on that. But I definitely feel your concerns. It's another reason we should be capturing rain. Yeah. Well, we shouldn't be using all these horrifying chemicals and then put them on old railroad tracks. Again, what if we were spending our money rather than Wall Street bailouts on rebuilding our infrastructure and having a good rail system? And here's something weird, giving the rail union good jobs. And I mean, I've heard all these rail union people speak on there's certain things they were looking for in that potential rail strike that Biden just quashed, was in the management. I don't understand, I'm not a engineer, conductor, or whatever. Like, I don't know. But I heard this one guy explain it, and I'm not remembering it correctly. So I'm going to sound like I'm not that informed. But he was basically saying one of the things they were asking for was in the hours worked, to reduce the hours because people are getting burnt out, and the people that monitor like this train going on this track and this direction and all this stuff. That was part of what they were asking for, in addition to just like, good paid sick leave or whatever. So if we really put money into this stuff, we could fix all these problems. Americans would have great jobs. Our economy would be booming. Oh, there wouldn't be as many billionaires, though. Oh, no, they wouldn't be able to fly their dumb rockets around the planet. Oh, shit. Dang it. We'd actually be helping more. That thing that Vulcan, Spock saying, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. Unless they're billionaires, then everyone else can suck it. That's the American slogan. So, So let me tune up these next segments. So we've got that. Actually, I think I'm going to combine this into it. Well, let me find this. Hold on, everybody. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're just getting a couple articles lined up. Let's see. Here we go. All right. Yeah. All right. We'll combine this into one thing. You did like a good cock rocket through Gotham. You guys haven't watched Manifest It, please watch it. I'm glad that Rosie liked it. I'm glad many of you like it. Like it, give it a thumbs up, give it a nice comment, and share it. Sharing is one of the big things with the analytics. Like if a thing gets a lot of views, that's good. Likes are good. Positive comments are good. But sharing it like, hey, everybody, watch this special on your social media. The special's free, man. I made it free for you guys. So, sharing it helps. Even if you're like, Graham, I only have a couple hundred followers, but they truly track shares on the analytics. So sharing is caring. Everybody likes a good cock rocket. How could you not like Jeff Bezos' cock rocket? Oh, man. All right. Great interview with Rosie. God, I love having good interviews on. I just love having good, smart people on the show. It's so cool to listen to other views and perspectives, and she's so knowledgeable on this. She's educated me. One of the reasons I'm more knowledgeable on crypto is because of Rosie Tran. First ever crypto interview I did on this show was summer of 2020, 3 years ago. We were neck deep in the pandemic, and Rosie Tran came on the show to educate me about Bitcoin and crypto, and I was like, all right, I'm in. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Here we go. Yabba dibba dibba dabba dibba. Here we go. Baba dabba. All right. Got an old taste of some vegan guns. Look at them. Lean. I've leaned. I lost some weight. I had this stomach thing. I lost a little weight. I'm trying to put the muscle back on now. Been under some stress. So I'm just ordered a thing that reduces your cortisol, because cortisol levels come out when you're stressed. You need cortisol if there's like a thing happening that's stressful. But if you're always like stressed, it's not good. It brings up health issues, too much cortisol. If you're always like stressed out, it feeds itself. So all right, here we go, guys. Hot, fresh segment made to order, fresh off the grill. I think this light feels a little bright. That's too dark. No, it looked like a. There we go. I feel like I'm right back to where I was. Whatever. All right. Oh, well now. Labba-dibba-dibba. Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching Ba-Boom, the Political Vigilante. Truth, justice, and making Gotham great again. That's what we're here for. America thinks that it is got the whole world on its side, and slowly but surely it doesn't. That's becoming less and less the case. I remember we did a video on the show a couple years ago when Russia and China, who trade oil, this is back in 2018, I think, 2019, got rid of the petro, stopped using the petrodollar and started using the petro yuan. And we've shown you how China has, through the Silk Road Initiative, we've had Danny Haifong on the show numerous times, is they don't go out sanctioning and bombing everybody. They go out and they do deals, and they spend money in countries and say, we'll build you a port, we'll build you a hospital, a soccer stadium, or whatever. And they're just trying to broker deals. They just do it like diplomatically, while America does it through sanctions and war, and we just bomb and threaten everybody. I've shown you the map, how we've surrounded China and Russia and Iran with our military bases. And yet we call them the bad guys and the aggressors. And people always say, yeah, but Graham, China has done these bad human rights violations. Okay. Even if all those things are true, there's no way China has done worse human rights violations than the United States has just in the last 20 years. 6 million people are dead as a result of the global war on terror. And the Pentagon, its own words, its own statistics says 90% are unintended targets, which is a really nice, military line item way to say, oh, we kill 90% of the people we kill are innocent civilians. So that means 5.4 million people didn't deserve it, according to the Pentagon. So what does China do? And we paint them out to be the enemies. And again, sure, but China hasn't been bombing the Middle East for the last 20 years. Russia hasn't been bombing the Middle East for the last 20 years. I don't like that Russia invaded Ukraine, but we pushed them into that, as I've shown you before. And China the enemy. No, they're beating us economically, so we have to surround them with bases. And what about Taiwan? Yeah, okay, what about? Maybe Taiwan has a right to its sovereignty, but we're using Taiwan as an excuse to stack up military. So what does China do in the middle of all of this? Experts react. Iran and Saudi Arabia just agreed to restore relations with help from China. Here's what that means for the Middle East and the world. This is huge. This story's all over the place, but I found this one from the Atlantic Council because I wanted to just. Can the bitter gulf across the Gulf finally be bridged? On Friday, long-standing regional adversaries Iran and Saudi Arabia made a big announcement. They will reestablish diplomatic relations in a deal brokered by China. Below, Atlantic Council experts shared their insight on the breaking news and its significance for one of the Middle East's most consequential rivalries for the region and for the wider world. We'll update this post as more continues in. So there's all these that people weighing in here. And then some of them like, oh, Iran is not changing its strategic goal of regional dominance. So the U.S. interests in the Gulf are more secure if nations that surround it are actively working to de-escalate mutual tensions. This was the case when a 2001 security agreement between Saudi Arabia and Iran helped prevent active conflict for 10 years despite deep mutual mistrust, and remains the case today. So we should welcome the news of the reestablishment of diplomatic ties between these two nations following the agreement last year between the UAE and Iran to exchange ambassadors once again. However, this time the deal comes with two caveats, each of which raises important strategic questions for the United States. The first, most obviously, is that it was China that brought the sides together with an announcement timed to coincide with the start of President Jinping's third term. After many years of proclamations from Beijing that it merely wanted to build economic relations in the Middle East and didn't seek any political influence, we can see again, oh, China's the bad guy. No, China's actually brokering peace. Are they doing it to get money? Yeah. What is everything America does is for money and power. China has been steadily increasing its regional political influence for 2 decades, highlighted most recently by a visit by Xi to Riyadh in December and a visit by Iranian President Rosie to Beijing last month. Yesterday, China promised its interests in the region were only economic and it did not want to be a major political player. Today, China will promise that it only wants diplomatic influence, not a regional military presence. Yeah, they can't have their military all over the world. Only we can. But then let's look at this too. This is what Medea Benjamin, Iran and Saudi Arabia to reestablish diplomatic relations under deal brokered by China. China makes peace, U.S. makes war. # China is not our enemy, she's so true. Somebody wrote China acts like a leader. The U.S. acts like the mafia. It's like, this is what she's doing. She's trying to get peace. So, meanwhile, what are we doing? So let's talk about this briefly here. So we could be doing this, but part of America's plan in the Middle East, we kind of need everybody fighting with each other so that we have control. Because Iran has a lot of oil. Obviously, so does Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is our ally, but we let them chop up a journalist, Khashoggi. We did nothing about it. We just, I can't do that. Just let them kill a journalist. So, know what? No big deal. I mean, we've got Julian Assange in Belmarsh prison, so America doesn't care about press freedom. And we have tried to isolate Iran. And I don't, there's much that the Iranian government does that's repressive. Look what they've been doing. They basically killed a woman because she didn't want to wear her hijab. But our problem with Iran has always been that they wouldn't give up their oil after the Shah of Iran was deposed. So let's just look at the history real quick of America's involvement in Iran. So in 1953, the recently formed CIA staged a coup. Mossadegh was democratically elected leader of Iran, and he said he was going to socialize their oil, meaning the profits were going to go to the people. And he didn't want to just let Standard Oil and Shell Oil come in and do whatever the hell they wanted. He wasn't going to just give their oil to the West. So the CIA staged a coup and got Mossadegh out of there and put in power the Shah of Iran, who was a brutal dictator. He tortured, killed the Iranian people, human rights violations all day long. America didn't have a problem with it because he gave us the oil. Boom, we didn't care. So then in 1979, when the revolution happened and the Shah got thrown out of power and we protected the Shah, then they did the hostage crisis. But we helped create an environment where they were so angry at us, the Iranian people, because we, like the Ayatollah, as a young man in the 50s and 60s, saw his parents get snatched up and tortured by the Shah. And he blamed, rightfully so, America for letting that happen. And we protected the Shah. We let him do whatever he wanted. And so since the Muslim clerics took over from the Shah in 79 and 80, they've been the enemy. We backed Saddam Hussein in the Iraq-Iran war in the 80s. And then Saddam became our enemy when he took Iraq off the petrodollar. So we've just had this convoluted, again, we let Saudi Arabia do whatever they want. A bunch of the 9/11 bombers were from Saudi Arabia, but that wasn't that big of a deal because, hey, we do business with them. They give us oil. Now, I bet you that might change if Saudi Arabia and Iran team up. And again, what does America do? This is what China's doing in the region. And you could say, oh, China's just trying to sell stuff. Yeah, that's what they do. China got into the world by making cheap products. American companies shipped all of our jobs overseas because American CEOs don't want to pay American workers good wages because then they can't have 5 yachts. So they shipped the jobs overseas, which helped pull a lot of Chinese people out of poverty. And they want to sell their products all over the world. We want to bomb the shit out of everybody. And people say, yeah, but Graham, look at China. Again, nobody is bombing more people than America. Nobody. So then what do? Taiwan military to get 619 million U.S. arms boost as China keeps up pressure. We're trying to stir up a war in that region. March 2nd, the United States has approved the potential sale of 619 new weapons to Taiwan, including missiles for its F-16 fleet. And an island reported the second day of large-scale Chinese Air Force incursions nearby. Because again, we're surrounding China with our bases. And again, like people can say, hey, look, Graham, I'm from Taiwan. I don't like what the Chinese government has done. That's all fair. But why can't we broker peace? Like that's my big question here. The Pentagon said Wednesday, the United States has approved the potential sale of Taiwan arms and equipment that includes 200 anti-aircraft advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles and 100 HARM missiles that can take out land-based radar stations. The proposed sale will contribute to the recipient's capability to provide for the defense of its airspace, regional security, and interoperability with the United States, it said in a statement. Why can't America go, hey, Taiwan, China, let's sit down at it. Let's broker peace. We could do that. Just like China just did with Saudi Arabia and Iran. How come we can't broker peace? All we can do is sell weapons. That's all we know how to do is war and Wall Street bailouts and fast food and the Super Bowl. That's what we're good at. And pop music. We're good at pop music and the Oscars and big shiny distractions that keep America undereducated, divided, distracted, and afraid. We could be brokering peace in North Korea and South Korea. We could be brokering peace all over the world. But instead, we're going to alienate ourselves. And this is like, we are going to alienate ourselves. The United States is becoming more and more isolated. India is not on our side. They basically were like, we're not going to line up against Russia. I mean, I talked about this a year ago before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Ukrainian President Zelensky was like, the West is causing problems. Zelensky was ready to go to the negotiation table, as was Russia. And then Boris Johnson flies in. And the next day, Zelensky's like, nope, we're going to let, that was Putin's line in the sand. No NATO bases in Ukraine, no nuclear weapons in Ukraine. We don't want missiles that can hit Moscow in 2 minutes. Nope. We'll listen to everything else. We'll concede, or we'll be willing to talk about it. Anything else, Crimea, whatever, Donbass, we can talk about any of it, but that we don't want. And Zelensky was like, sure thing, you got it. And then Boris Johnson comes in and whatever he said, leans on him, says, you better watch out. We're going to pull our funding or whatever. And then Zelensky comes back and says, we're going to put NATO bases. And he all of a sudden gets all defiant with Russia. And Russia goes, okay, and calls everybody's bluff and invades. And I don't like the invasion, but we help force them. Why can't we broker peace? Why can't we broker peace? America has a history of brokering peace in certain regions. Why can't we broker peace? Why can't we do this? We should broker peace with Taiwan. We should broker peace with Tibet. If we came in, rather than like selling our rockets all on China's border, and came in and said, look, you guys got to let Tibet be, let the Dalai Lama have that spiritual center again, and let Taiwan, and we'll pull our bases back. I think China would be reasonable. But we don't even understand Asian culture, which is so big about respect, and we just disrespect them every turn and then wonder why they're like, okay. Then we're poking China to get into a fight, and China's not dumb enough to fight us militarily. They're not dumb enough to do that. So they're just like, okay, we'll buy. Rather than terrify everybody, we just bully our way into we tell countries, you better do it our way. We just go in and bully our way through everything. China goes, we'll help you. Was there something behind the scenes in that China brokering that Iran Saudi deal? Yeah, I'm sure China went, we want you guys to get along, and we get some of your oil, because China needs more oil and it doesn't have oil. That's why it makes deals with Russia. But again, the United States could be sitting down with China and saying, guys, we all got to get off of oil. Let's all go green. We'll lead the way. And we'll go to Iran. We could broker peace. The Iranian people are so nice. Did you see what happened in the World Cup? After America beat Iran, the Iranian people were in the streets dancing and singing and celebrating with the Americans. They're like, we love Americans. Our governments don't get along, but you guys are awesome. I've been treated so well by Persian people on so many occasions. On so many occasions. It's and if we came in peacefully and respectfully, we could probably get China to concede on Taiwan or something. We'd say, look, guys, and China makes great cases. They always say, well, all right, we'll let go of Taiwan. You guys give back Hawaii, which was illegally taken in 1893 by the Kingdom of Hawaii. We stole those islands. The U.S. military, it's called the Bayonet Constitution. We did a segment on it on government secrets. We went into the Iolani Palace, which is the only palace on American soil, on the island of Oahu. It's in downtown Honolulu. And we went in there and we put bayonets to the knives at King Kalakawa's throat and said, sign over these islands to the United States, make it in the United States territory, or we slit your throat and kill your family. That's how America does business. Look at what China does. I'm telling you, when people say it's better to be loved or feared, loved. Because if you're feared, you might get what you want in the short run. Eventually, people are like, because let me tell you something, the world isn't going to shed a tear when America goes under. We're going under. We're facing economic collapse. The SVB, we're going to have we just had a financial collapse in 2008. It's been 15 years. We're about to have another one. We're in the middle of having another one. There's a run on the banks at SVB. I've been warning you guys about this. That's why I say buy Bitcoin, not just crypto, buy Bitcoin specifically. Get it off the exchanges, get it on a cold wallet. America's going under. All we do is spend money. Our infrastructure's look at the train derailment. Look at the train derailment. We can't even have functioning trains in this country. Biden squashed the rail strike, and Republicans and Democrats are evil. They're both parties. If you're sitting there going, we just need to get Biden out of there, and then when Republicans, that's what the liberals said when Trump was in there. Oh, we got to get Trump out of there. And if Americans, you just keep kicking this football back and forth between these two utterly corrupt parties, nothing will change. The world is kind of hoping we go under because the world's a little sick of us bombing and sanctioning and bullying our way around the globe. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth. America could be the good guy, which us brokering peace around the globe would ensure that America would stay as America for a long, long time. But we're not a functioning democracy. We're not a representative democracy. We're not a government by and for the people. We're a kleptocracy run by oligarchs. A handful of powerful people control both political parties, the media, the courts. They control everything. So until that changes, China's going to beat us. And this is how they're going to beat us. And everyone's like, China, they're not going to invade. China's not going to invade this country. We're 330 million of their best customers. Why would they invade? Why would they go head to head with the biggest military in the world? They would never do that. They're just going to keep doing this and watch us economically collapse and hope that a psycho doesn't become president of America that's more psychotic than Trump or even or whatever. Biden doesn't even know what day it is, but like, you know, if somebody like DeSantis becomes president, he could just go, we're going to war with China. And then do you want to go to war with China? Do you want to get drafted to go to war with China? Do you want to get into a land war with China? They have 1.5 billion people. We have 330 million people. Do you want to get into a land war with China? Do you want to go fight in Ukraine? Do you want to get drafted to go fight in Ukraine against the Russian army? Do you want to do that? I don't. America could be the good guys, but we're not. Thanks for supporting our show, guys. There's a bunch of great ways to support the show. I have a new comedy special out called Manifest It, where I call out both political parties. I call out the war machine. I make fun of everybody. I say America is a cult, and it's at All Things Comedy. If you just go to GrahamElwood.com or type in Graham Elwood Manifest It is the name of the special. It's on YouTube. It's free. Please check it out. Share it to everybody. Because I don't know a lot of comics other than like Lee Camp and Ron Placone that are talking about this kind of political stuff. There's not a lot of us, so we need to spread the word. Thanks for watching, everybody. Shave your knuckles for justice. Boom. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. 75 likes. Manifest It is genius. Thank you. I'm so glad you guys like it. Thank you for supporting my show. Thank you, Matt S. Oh, I'm going to start putting up some new merch soon that's going to have some jokes from Manifest It, like the second knuckle brings enlightenment. I'm going to put that on a t-shirt. That's going to be only available at GrahamElwood.com. So thank you. Thank you all for watching the show. Wow, we've been going almost 2 hours. All right, my voice is starting to go. So Biden signed Willow. God, I didn't even have time to go into how awful that is. Yeah, I figured a lot of you guys would like that shirt. Yeah, Biden is horrible. He didn't think he could be worse than Trump. Yep. Yes, he is. He is. He's worse than Trump. 1,000% worse than Trump. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the show. Thank you, Blaze Silverwolf and Holly Horn, our moderators. Thank you to Rosie Tran for coming on the show today. Last minute. We appreciate it. Thank you to all of you for supporting what we do. Please sign up for Patreon or Venmo. The Venmo, it's $10 and you get all the premium content. Like this live stream immediately goes behind the paywall at Venmo and Patreon. So you get to watch, if you just tuned in late, you can watch all the old live streams. And I put audio versions up on Patreon and Rockfin as well. So go to rockfin.com/GrahamElwood. It's free to sign up. And the $10 a month gets you bonus content on everybody on Venmo's platform. God, I keep saying Venmo, on everybody on Rockfin. Like Rosie Tran's on Rockfin. So you get all of her bonus content. So thank you for watching, everybody. Very much appreciate it. And have a great night. Not sure. I'll be live either Tuesday or Wednesday. Not sure. But of course, Government Secrets Thursday at its new time, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. So check that out. All right, folks. Thanks for watching. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth. Buy Bitcoin, put it on a cold wallet because the economic collapse is coming. Get your money out of the traditional banks. Move it to a credit union. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.